Hello everyone, this is Jordan. Welcome to the Daily Gold YouTube channel. And if you're returning, welcome back to the Daily Gold YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. This video is being recorded on the evening of Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. And in this video, I'm going to talk about silver. There are a few things happening under the surface. It has rebounded a little bit, but the question is, what's next? How far can this rally go? Does it have legs? Well, I'm going to talk about these things, and let's get right to it and right to the charts. So first thing happening here, and let me just preface this by saying this is not my area of expertise. This side of the market, the happenings that are going on in the physical market, and so this is silver exchange for physical. So these are, I believe, essentially contracts where instead of cash settlement, they're being settled by delivery or with delivery of silver, if I have that right. And so this could be a measure of, potentially some tightness or lack thereof in the physical market for silver. And this chart is from Bloomberg and Bank of America Global Research. And B of A, they put out some really good charts, but one thing that bothers me is this line is so damn thick that you don't know. Like sometimes you can't tell exactly where it is. Like if you look at these, this line is so fat that you can't tell. Did this happen before this? I guess here you can see that this happened before this, but I'm droning on here. But my point is, this data is great, but I'd love to see it with overlaid with a price of silver itself. That would be a lot more instructive, a lot more actionable. And so interestingly, I think about the years that silver had major peaks. 2008 was a major peak, and then at the end of the year was a major bottom. 2011, epic peak in the silver market. 2020, you did have a bottom. Then at the end of the year, you had a peak, or the first week of 21, you had a peak. So I'm looking at these things closely. And so you did have a peak in early '08. You did have a bottom later in the year. So maybe this is the signals the peak. This signals the bottom. You had a massive peak in 2011 in silver. So this here early in the year, that signals the peak. This here, I don't think that, necessarily signals anything. This here also was I think close to a secondary peak. But you go back over here and you look, okay, beginning of 2021, again, the first week of 2021, you had a peak in silver. So this probably aligns with that. 2020, you did have a bottom, the COVID crash low. So maybe this coincided with the low. Maybe this here coincided with the low. So deducing all of that, then maybe this is bullish, and this has to be a sign of, or I should say, this not necessarily a sign of the bottom. Well, maybe it is because we're just coming off a bottom, but that's the way I look at it. It's just the silver bugs will immediately say, "Oh, this is bullish. This is bullish," and so looking at this carefully, I'd say, yeah, this is probably bullish, or more bullish than not. So let's get to the next chart. So we have silver short interest, although this is in SLV, the silver ETF. So the blue here is the nominal short interest, and the red is actually the short interest ratio. So this is a ratio of short interest. It's measured against something else, and I'm sorry, my mind escapes me. I'm not quite sure what it's measured against, but I am familiar with the short interest ratio. So, and I do prefer the red. I think that's more instructive. And so, but the blue is also important. So we're looking at, previous peaks that they've highlighted here. By the way, this is from Macro Ops. Great outfit there. So follow them on Twitter. Brandon Balo as well. He tweeted this chart. Let me go back a second. As far as this, what's going on here, you should follow Bob Coleman on Twitter and also Vince Lancy. So those are the guys to follow for analysis of this. I just wanted to get those shout outs out there. Okay, so you had short interest going up, bottom here. You had short interest going up in 2011, and I drew these lines because we need to see exactly where the peak is. So short interest was going up, and you were having massive short covering here. Because short interest, well, I should say they kept going. They kept going up, and obviously that fueled the market going higher. But even people were still shorting. Like you can see this here, which is somewhere in here, and so this secondary rally, there was a lot of covering at that point. But you also saw short interest moving up here, but we could say silver was in a downtrend. It was really oversold. So it's different here because we've had a little correction, but we can say this is an uptrend, obviously. And again, you do have this surge higher in short interest. And so I don't think this means silver's about to go like this. I would really bet against that thought. But something like this, is possible where this is high and it means silver shorts are going to have to cover at some point. And when you have a huge short position, they don't last long. Like they cover sooner rather than later. So as far as me droning on here, I would say, again, this is more bullish than not. Before I get to looking at silver itself, this is also interesting to me. So this is silver against a foreign currency basket. So again, we do this with gold all the time because gold against foreign currencies is a leader. It makes new highs before gold and US dollars. And one way to measure this, silver against foreign currencies, or gold against foreign currencies, you're looking at the inverse of the dollar. So you're basically looking at the dollar basket, which is 60% euro, 20% yen, there's British pound in there, Canadian dollar, whatever those other currencies are. But that's how you're looking at it. And so one way to calculate that simply is you just do silver divided by the US dollar, silver times the US dollar and then divided by 100. US dollar divided by 100. So that's how you get these readings here. So this is really interesting because here's the peak here, and this is monthly closing data, by the way. So here, after today, again, the month isn't over, but I put it in there anyway. So we're squeaking up here, silver against foreign currencies. This is getting pretty close to the 2011 high. So if this closes this month higher than this, that would be back to 1980. That is a 45-year high. So we are only about 3% away from a 45-year high as far as silver against the foreign currency basket. Although in US dollars, this is 50 and 50. So there is more to go here. Once this chart breaks this, there is a little bit more to go to retest the 1980 peak. So finally here, let's look at silver technicals, the silver weekly candle chart. And yet this is in my wheelhouse. So down here we have silver against gold. And so this has been in a range for the last couple years, last 3 years or so, here and here. Here's the 200-day moving average, the weekly equivalent. And so we can see this is weak. I mean, silver has been declining against gold. So gold has really been outperforming. Silver is weak here. Now, looking at the price action, silver closed today at 31.42. So we got 2 days left in the week. So I think it'll probably test 32, but we can see here 32 is weekly resistance. And so looking at candle charts, like candle charts can really help you or help inform you as to what happened during the week. And so looking at these candles, like we can see, okay, it closed here, but intra-week, this week it almost tested 32. This week we see silver opened here. It went above 32, but then closed all the way down here. The next week, another week, it went up to 30. It opened here, traded all the way up above 32, then closed down here. So even back here, we can see great week, but it closed below 32. Here, tested 32, but closed down here. Over here, it went above 32, back down here. This week, this was a good week, closed up, but it closed off the high. High was right at 32, so it failed there. Intra-week, then it closed here. Next week, another big move, but it closed all the way down here. So another failure. Now here, this pushed up, tested 32, but good week, even though it closed down here. basically nothing 2 weeks ago. Now this week, this is where we are. It's pushing up. So I think at worst, silver is probably going to try and test 32. And my thinking is, if gold continues to move higher, maybe it makes a new high. That should be able to push silver up above 32 and probably test 35. So you have big resistance at 35, also 37. But the issue for silver is, I mean, we're looking at this here, which should be bullish, and this here, which should be bullish. But I mean, this is where the price action is. Like 32 is still stiff resistance, and silver is lagging gold. It's underperforming here. Okay, and we know that gold is not outperforming the stock market. So you have all these things happening under the surface, but these technicals are not that bullish for silver. But that being said, this is not a time you immediately get bearish and think the market's going to come down. Again, my thinking is, if gold makes a new high and it's going to move to 3,000, that is probably going to pull silver higher, and this will turn up in favor of silver, and maybe that drags silver up to 35. So that's one possibility. But I don't see silver leading gold or outperforming just yet. But that being said, again, gold keeps moving up. It's probably going to pull silver above 32. So that's all for this video. By the way, if you're interested in silver stocks, I mean, we own some of them. We cover a lot of them. Again, we're focused on the high quality juniors, which we think have the most upside potential. But at the same time, I'm also aware of, and I occasionally mention, some of the other silver companies that are not as high quality, and maybe when gold breaks out against a 60-40 and silver starts outperforming gold, that'll be the time you want to get into those types of silver stocks. So head on over to thedailygold.com/premium. Would love to have you a subscriber. Those of you who are already subscribers, thank you so much. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. What do you think is going to happen this year in silver? Would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you again. I'll see you guys on Friday for the weekly recap.